The cold wind whipped against Liam's face as he sprinted down the narrow city street, his heart pounding harder than his footsteps echoing off the darkened pavement. Clutched tightly in his arms was a small, trembling puppy, its golden fur matted with dirt, eyes wide with fear. Behind him, the screech of tires and the blaring of a black SUV's horn made him glance back for a split second, just enough to see the shadowy figures gaining ground. Why would someone chase a kid over a lost puppy? Liam didn't have time to figure it out. All he knew was that he couldn't let them catch him. Ducking into an alley, he pressed his back against the cold brick wall, trying to catch his breath. The puppy whimpered softly, nuzzling into his chest as if it could sense the danger too. Liam whispered, "Sure, it's okay, I got you," though he wasn't sure if he was comforting the dog or himself. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Liam squeezed his eyes shut for a brief moment, summoning the courage he didn't feel. Then, without thinking, he bolted again, weaving through the maze of alleys until the sounds faded behind him. 3 days earlier, Liam trudged down the cracked sidewalk, his backpack sagging with the weight of unfinished homework and unnoticed dreams. His breath formed small clouds in the crisp autumn air, mingling with the faint scent of exhaust fumes from passing cars. The city buzzed around him, honking horns, murmured conversations, footsteps echoing off concrete, but Liam remained invisible, just another shadow drifting through the crowd. His life was a quiet blur of routine. Wake up, go to school, avoid the bullies, come home and repeat. His mother worked 2 jobs, rarely home before midnight, and his father was nothing more than a faded photograph tucked away in a dusty drawer. Loneliness had become an unwelcome companion, one he had long since stopped fighting. That afternoon, as he cut through a small park to shave a few minutes off his walk, something caught his attention. Beneath a rusted bench, partially hidden by fallen leaves, was a small bundle of fur. Liam squinted, his curiosity piqued despite himself. A puppy. Golden fur matted with dirt, trembling from the cold, and wide, soulful eyes that met his with a mixture of fear and hope. The pup's tiny body shivered uncontrollably, its ribs faintly visible beneath the thin layer of fur. A frayed collar hung loosely around its neck, the tag missing. Liam hesitated. He could barely take care of himself, let alone a dog. His apartment was small, his mother barely scraping by to pay rent. The logical thing to do would be to walk away to let someone else handle it. But when the puppy let out a soft, pitiful whimper, something in Liam's chest tightened. Just for tonight, he muttered as if making a deal with himself. He carefully scooped the puppy into his arms, tucking it inside his jacket to shield it from the cold. The warmth of the small creature against his chest was oddly comforting. When he got home, Liam wrapped the puppy in an old towel and scrounged for leftovers, a half-eaten sandwich from his lunch. The puppy devoured it eagerly, licking its tiny pink tongue across Liam's fingers as if in gratitude. "I guess I should give you a name," Liam murmured, watching the puppy curl into a small golden ball. After a moment he whispered, "Max." "Yeah, Max." Max became Liam's shadow overnight. Wherever Liam went, Max followed, his tiny paws tapping softly against the apartment's creaky floorboards. For the first time in a long while, Liam felt, noticed, needed. The apartment didn't feel as empty, and the silence wasn't as heavy. The next few days passed in a blur of stolen moments. Liam snuck scraps from the kitchen to feed Max and crafted a makeshift bed from an old sweater. He even skipped his usual route home from school, taking detours through quieter streets to avoid questions. But nothing stays hidden forever. On the 3rd day, Liam noticed something different on his way home. Bright posters plastered on lamp posts, bus stops, and store windows. The photo was unmistakable. Max, his golden fur cleaner, his eyes bright, sitting obediently next to a man in a tailored suit. Missing dog, $50,000 reward. Liam's heart raced as he read the bold letters. His eyes darted to the bottom of the poster, where the owner's name was printed, Victor Kade. The name sounded familiar and not in a good way. Victor Kade was a billionaire known for his ruthless business tactics and an air of mystery. Stories about him filled the news, power plays, hostile takeovers, and scandals whispered about in hushed tones. Liam stared at the poster, torn. The reward could change everything for him and his mom. But something felt wrong. Why would someone like Victor Kade care so much about a lost puppy? And why did the men putting up the posters look more like bodyguards than concerned pet owners? That night, Liam sat on the floor beside Max, gently stroking his soft fur. Max nuzzled into his hand, his small body warm against the cold reality creeping into Liam's thoughts. "What do I do, Max?" Liam whispered. The puppy responded with a soft yawn, oblivious to the weight of Liam's dilemma. Sleep didn't come easy. Liam tossed and turned, his mind racing with questions. By morning his decision was clear. He couldn't let Max go. But he couldn't keep him either. He had to find out the truth. And that's when everything started to spiral out of control. The morning light seeped through the cracked blinds of Liam's small bedroom, casting faint stripes across the faded wallpaper. Max was curled up at the foot of his bed, his tiny chest rising and falling with each peaceful breath. Liam watched him for a moment, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in his heart, something more than just companionship. It was connection. After a hurried breakfast, Liam stuffed a few scraps into his backpack, alongside his schoolbooks. He had to keep Max hidden, especially now that those posters were everywhere. He slipped Max gently into his jacket, leaving just enough space for the pup to peek out and breathe. The walk to school was tense. Liam kept his head down, heart racing every time someone glanced in his direction. He passed more posters, each one feeling like a spotlight on his guilty conscience. But was it really guilt? He wasn't sure. Max wasn't just a lost dog anymore. He was Liam's friend. At school, Liam found a secluded spot behind the gym where he could let Max stretch his legs during lunch. As Max sniffed curiously around the patch of overgrown grass, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. And they were. A man in a dark suit stood across the street, pretending to read a newspaper. But Liam noticed the way his eyes flicked over the paper's edge, tracking Max's every move. The same man had been near the park the day before. Liam's heart raced. After school, Liam took a different route home, weaving through back alleys and side streets. When he finally reached his apartment, he double-checked the locks. His small, cluttered room felt like the safest place in the world, but also a cage. Sitting on the floor, Max nestled in his lap. Liam pulled out one of the posters he'd ripped down earlier. Victor Kade. The name was bold and unmissable, like everything about the man himself. Liam grabbed his old, beat-up laptop and typed the name into the search bar. Articles flooded the screen: billionaire, entrepreneur, tech mogul, philanthropist. But beneath the polished headlines were darker stories: shady business deals, corporate espionage, whispers of criminal ties. Why would someone like that care so much about a puppy? Liam wondered. The more he read, the more uneasy he felt. The men in suits weren't just hired to find a lost dog. They were hunting something, or someone. Curiosity gnawed at him. He examined Max's collar, running his fingers along the frayed leather. That's when he felt it, a small hard bump under the stitching. Carefully he pried it open with a safety pin. A tiny microchip, no bigger than a grain of rice, was embedded inside. Liam's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't the usual pet tracker. This was different, sleek, metallic, with faint engravings that looked like code. He'd seen enough spy movies to know this wasn't normal. "What are you, Max?" Liam thought, staring at the puppy who'd already stolen his heart. The next few days were a blur of paranoia and fear. Liam skipped school, claiming he was sick. He stayed inside, researching everything he could about microchips and Victor Kade. The more he learned, the clearer the danger became. And then the phone call started. At first they were just silent. Then came the voices, calm, polite, but with an undercurrent of menace. "We know you have something that belongs to Mr. Kade." Liam unplugged the phone. That night someone knocked on the door. Liam didn't answer. He held Max close, heart pounding, as shadows shifted under the doorframe. He heard footsteps retreating, but not far enough. The next morning, Liam found a note slipped under the door. "Return what's ours or we'll take it." His hands trembled as he crumpled the paper. They weren't going to stop. And now it wasn't just about Max. It was about survival. Liam made a decision. He packed a small bag, food, water, his laptop, and Max. They couldn't stay. Not here. Not with the walls closing in. They slipped out through the fire escape, disappearing into the city's maze of alleys and shadows. Liam didn't know where they were going, but he knew one thing. He couldn't let them catch Max. Because Max wasn't just a puppy anymore. He was the key to something much bigger than either of them had ever imagined. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and red as Liam ran, Max's warm body pressed tightly against his chest. His heart felt like a drum, each beat urging him to keep moving, to not look back. But he couldn't ignore the shadows following him, the relentless echo of footsteps growing louder with every turn he took. He ducked into an abandoned parking garage, the dim fluorescent lights flickering overhead. The cold concrete floor echoed with each step, his breath visible in the chilly air. Liam crouched behind a rusted pillar, trying to steady his ragged breathing. Max whimpered softly, sensing the tension. How did it come to this? Liam thought, clutching Max tighter. Just days ago they were safe, or at least safer than this. Through the gaps in the crumbling walls, Liam watched as two men in dark suits stalked through the garage. Their movements were methodical, calculated. One of them held a walkie-talkie, muttering something Liam couldn't hear. The other scanned the shadows with a small flashlight, its beams slicing through the darkness like a blade. Liam knew he couldn't stay hidden forever. When the men moved to the other side of the garage, Liam seized his chance. He darted out, staying low, his footsteps muffled by the dust-covered floor. He navigated through the maze of abandoned cars, praying his small frame would blend into the darkness. As he reached the exit, a sudden shout pierced the silence. There? Adrenaline surged through Liam's veins. He sprinted into the night, his legs burning with exhaustion. The black SUV roared to life behind him, headlights flaring like twin eyes of a predator. Liam veered into an alley, narrowly avoiding the vehicle. His lungs screamed for air, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Eventually he collapsed behind a dumpster hidden from view. His chest heaved, and his vision blurred with tears of fear and frustration. Max licked his face gently, grounding him. I need help, Liam realized. But who could he trust? His mind raced through the possibilities. The police? No, what if they were in on it? After all, these men were professionals. Corporate men. Maybe worse. Then it hit him, the media. If he could get Max's story out there, maybe they wouldn't be able to cover it up. Exposure was their weakness. With newfound determination, Liam stood. He checked his bag, his laptop was still there. He just needed a Wi-Fi connection. He found an all-night diner, its neon sign flickering weakly. Slipping inside, he chose a corner booth, keeping Max hidden beneath the table. His fingers trembled as he opened his laptop and connected to the free Wi-Fi. Typing quickly, he drafted an email. Subject: Urgent, billionaire Victor Kade, missing dog and a dangerous secret. Hello. My name is Liam. I need your help. I found a lost dog, but it's not just any dog. There's something hidden in his collar, a microchip with files. I don't know what they are, but people are chasing me. They want the dog back and they're dangerous. Please, if you get this, help me. I think my life is in danger. He sent it to every major news outlet he could think of, hoping someone would believe him. Minutes later, his laptop pinged with a reply. Meet me at the old train station. Midnight. Bring the dog. Don't tell anyone. It was risky. But Liam had no choice. At midnight, he approached the derelict station, its broken windows and graffiti-covered walls looming in the moonlight. His footsteps echoed eerily as he stepped onto the cracked platform. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman in her late 20s holding a small camera. She introduced herself as Maya, an investigative journalist. Let me see the chip, she said. Liam hesitated but handed Max over gently. Maya examined the collar, her expression darkening as she discovered the hidden microchip. This isn't just any data, she whispered. This could take down Kade. Suddenly, headlights flooded the station. Black SUVs surrounded them. Liam's heart raced as men in suits emerged, guns drawn. Maya grabbed Liam's hand. Run? They sprinted into the labyrinth of abandoned train cars, the sound of gunshots echoing behind them. Liam clutched Max tightly, determined to protect him no matter what. This isn't just about survival anymore, Liam realized. This is about exposing the truth. Liam and Maya sprinted through the maze of rusted train cars, their breath ragged in the cold night air. Max trembled in Liam's arms, but Liam didn't dare slow down. Behind them, the sound of footsteps and shouting echoed like a drumbeat of danger. They ducked into an old boxcar, slamming the heavy door shut behind them. The dim moonlight filtered through the cracks, casting jagged shadows across the dusty floor. What do they want? Liam gasped, his chest heaving. Maya pulled out a small flashlight, her face grim in the pale glow. It's not just about Max. It's the data hidden in his collar. This microchip, she held it up, the faint red light blinking ominously, contains encrypted files that could expose Victor Kade's illegal dealings. Money laundering, corporate espionage, maybe worse. Liam stared at the tiny device. But why put it on a dog? Because no one would suspect it, Maya replied. It's the perfect disguise. But someone found out. And now they're after anyone who's seen it? Liam's stomach twisted with fear. He had stumbled into something far bigger than he could have imagined. Maya pulled out her phone. I need to get this to my editor. If we can publish the story, we might have a chance. She dialed quickly, but before she could speak, a loud bang echoed through the boxcar. The door flew open and the men in suits stormed in, their guns raised. Get down? Maya shouted, pulling Liam to the floor. Bullets ripped through the air, shattering the fragile silence. Liam shielded Max with his body, his heart pounding like a war drum. Maya fired back with a small pistol, but she was outnumbered. "Run, Liam. Take Max and run." Liam hesitated for a split second, then bolted through the other door, Max clutched tightly in his arms. He didn't look back. He raced across the empty train yard, the cold wind stinging his face. He could hear the men behind him, their footsteps relentless. Liam spotted an old maintenance tunnel and dove inside, sliding down the steep slope. The darkness swallowed him, but he didn't stop. He kept running until the sounds faded, replaced by the eerie silence of the underground. He collapsed against the damp wall, gasping for air. Max whimpered softly, licking Liam's face as if to say, "We made it." But Liam knew it wasn't over. After catching his breath, he pulled out the microchip. "This tiny thing is why they're chasing us," he thought, anger replacing his fear. "We have to finish what Maya started," Liam whispered. "We have to expose them." Using his laptop, he hacked into the microchip's encryption. It wasn't easy, but desperation fueled his determination. Finally, the files opened. Liam stared at the screen in shock. Documents, emails, financial records, evidence of crimes that could destroy Kade's empire. He uploaded everything to a secure server, attaching a message. "This is the truth. The world deserves to know." With trembling hands he hit send. The next morning, headlines exploded across the internet. "Billionaire exposed. The secret hidden in a lost puppy." Kade's empire crumbled overnight. Arrests were made, including the men who had hunted Liam. But Liam didn't care about the headlines. All he cared about was Max, the puppy who had changed his life forever. Because sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths. The morning after Liam uploaded the files, the city was buzzing with headlines that exposed the dark underbelly of Victor Kade's empire. But Liam wasn't basking in the glow of his accidental fame. Instead, he was hiding in the cramped confines of an abandoned apartment above a closed bookstore, clutching Max like a lifeline. The world outside had erupted in chaos. News outlets ran with the story, broadcasting footage of corporate buildings raided by law enforcement. Arrests were made in real time, including several of the men who had chased Liam through the city. Victor Kade himself was nowhere to be found, his face plastered across wanted posters, labeled as a fugitive. Liam watched the news with a mixture of disbelief and exhaustion. He had done it. He had exposed the truth. But the weight of it all felt heavier than he expected. Maya, though injured, had survived. She found Liam a few days later, her arm in a sling but her spirit unbroken. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "You're a hero, Liam." But Liam didn't feel like one. Heroes weren't supposed to be scared. They weren't supposed to run. Yet that's all he had done. "I just wanted to help Max," he muttered, looking down at the puppy, who wagged his tail as if none of the chaos had ever happened. Maya smiled softly. Sometimes helping one small life is all it takes to change the world. In the following weeks, Liam struggled to adjust to his new reality. The media wanted interviews. Strangers recognized him on the street. His face was everywhere, labeled as the kid who brought down a billionaire. But fame wasn't what Liam needed. He needed normalcy. Eventually, he and his mother moved to a quieter part of the city. She found a stable job, and for the first time in years they felt secure. The money from donations and book deals that followed the media frenzy helped, but it was the peace that mattered most. Liam returned to school trying to blend in, but he was different now. Not because of the headlines, but because he had seen the world's darkness and survived. He had learned that courage wasn't about fearlessness. It was about doing the right thing despite being afraid. Max became more than a pet. He was a symbol of resilience. Wherever Liam went, Max followed, his presence a comforting reminder of the adventure that had changed their lives. Years later, standing on a stage at his high school graduation, Liam looked out at the crowd, his heart steady. He didn't prepare a speech, but when he spoke, his words came easily. "I used to think heroes were people with capes, people who weren't afraid. But I was wrong. Heroes are scared kids who run anyway. They're people who choose kindness when it's easier to look away. They're people who pick up lost puppies even when it changes everything." The applause was deafening, but Liam's gaze found Max in the crowd, tail wagging, eyes bright. Because sometimes the biggest stories start with the smallest steps. And sometimes, a kid and a lost puppy can change the world. Muzzle remained his loyal companion, a symbol of resilience and a reminder of why he started this journey. One evening, while sorting through old documents in a small, dimly lit office in Prague, Liam stumbled upon a clue that made his heart race. It was a coded ledger linked to offshore accounts, and at the center was a familiar name, Victor Kade. Fueled by a mix of adrenaline and determination, Liam followed the trail, which led him to a secluded villa hidden in the Swiss Alps. With the help of local authorities and Maya, who had become a renowned journalist herself, they coordinated a raid. The night was tense, the air thick with anticipation. As law enforcement breached the villa, Liam stood back, Max beside him, heart pounding. When Kade was finally let out in handcuffs, his cold eyes met Liam's for the briefest moment. There was no rage, no defiance, just the quiet acknowledgement of defeat. The arrest of Victor Kade was a global headline, but for Liam, it was closure. The final chapter in a story that had shaped his life. Yet, standing in the cold mountain air, he realized his journey wasn't defined by the capture of a criminal but by the courage it took to face fear, to seek the truth, and to believe in the power of small actions. Returning home, Liam found peace in the simple things: walks with Max through quiet parks, writing articles that gave voice to the unheard, and mentoring young journalists eager to make a difference. His life wasn't extraordinary because of the headlines, but because he chose kindness, courage, and truth when it mattered most. As Max's years waned, Liam cherished every moment, knowing their story was etched not just in history but in the hearts of those they had inspired. When Max peacefully passed away one autumn morning, Liam felt an ache deeper than words. But he also felt gratitude, for Max had been more than a pet. He was the heart of a journey that changed the world. Liam eventually wrote a book titled Echoes of Courage, sharing their story from his heart. It wasn't just about exposing corruption or chasing headlines, it was about the power of connection, the strength found in vulnerability, and the extraordinary impact of ordinary people. In the final chapter, Liam wrote, "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to stand firm despite it. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is pick up a lost puppy and choose to care. That choice changed my life. Maybe it can change yours too." And with that, their story continued, not just in pages and memories but in the lives touched by a boy, a dog, and the courage to do what was right.